Welcome back, fellow internet adventurers. Get ready for another wild ride through Reddit's strangest stories. We're diving deep into the internet's quirkiest corners. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like. Let's get started. Hi, I know we're not supposed to share names, at least not full names, so I'll just keep it simple. My name is Hector. I'm 47. My soon-to-be ex-wife, Debbie, and I were married for 26 years and together for 30. We got married during our senior year of high school when she got pregnant with our first child. I was lucky to land a job at UPS right after graduation. It was tough at first, especially because her traditional Irish family didn't like me in the beginning, but I eventually won them over, especially her dad. I made sure Debbie didn't have to work, and by the time we were 27, we already had 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy. I was just glad our firstborn was a boy. Like most couples, we had our disagreements, mostly about money, how to raise the kids, and my complaints about our lack of intimacy. I understood, though. Raising 5 kids is exhausting, and I tried to help as much as I could, but she was always tired. Still, Debbie was my world. She always kept herself in great shape, and I tried to stay fit too, but after so many years as a delivery driver, I ended up with what you'd call a skinny fat body. Muscular arms, chest, and legs, but with a bit of a belly. I even started shaving my head because of my receding hairline. There were times when Debbie could be verbally harsh towards me, and whenever I stood up for myself, she'd flip the situation, playing the victim and making me out to be the bad guy. I usually just gave up to avoid more conflict. As the years went by, my wife Debbie and I ended up being the last married couple in our friend group. Every single one of our married friends got divorced. Out of 7 couples, 5 of the divorces were caused by the wife's infidelity, 1 by the husband, and the last one happened because she friend-zoned her husband. I wasn't comfortable with Debbie hanging out with her newly single friends, but bringing that up always led to big arguments about me being controlling, treating her like a prisoner, or using her as some sort of personal object. It caught me off guard, and the more time she spent with them, the more resentful she seemed to get. The kids noticed it too. I remember coming home one day to find my son and 2 of my daughters arguing with her. I understood why they were frustrated, but I told them off for yelling at their mother. After they left the room, I asked Debbie what was going on, and she said that we all saw her as a slave. When I tried to understand what she meant, she just shut down and walked away. I remember D-Day so clearly. Debbie was out with her friends, and I was in the kitchen cooking while the kids watched Train to Busan. My 3 oldest came into the kitchen looking worried. Before I could ask what was wrong, my son told me they suspected their mom was having an affair. At first, I refused to believe it. I was angry and told them they were wrong. To prove it, I checked the Find My iPhone app and saw she was at a bar outside of town. I jumped in my truck and drove there. When I got to the bar, it was packed, but I saw Debbie's friends at a booth acting rowdy. They all froze when they saw me, which gave me a bad feeling. I couldn't find Debbie inside, so I went out to the parking lot. In the back corner, I spotted a car where it looked like a guy was sleeping in the driver's seat, a man who I thought was my friend. I approached the car to ask him if he had seen my wife, but when I got closer, it was obvious that he was receiving oral sex. The closer I got, the more I recognized the woman in the car. I was practically standing by the driver's side window, and none of them noticed me. I lost it. I broke the car window, dragged him out, and started hitting him. Debbie was screaming sorry over and over again. The police arrived not long after, and I was arrested for assault and battery. I spent a week and a half in county jail. At one point, I had to go to the infirmary because I thought I was having a heart attack, but it turned out I was suffering from broken heart syndrome. Eventually, my father-in-law bailed me out. When I walked out, he was practically in tears, apologizing for his daughter's behavior. On the way home, he told me he had spoken with my manager and union rep to make sure I wouldn't lose my job. He also said the kids were staying with him and that Debbie was at our house waiting for me. He knew what was going to happen, which was why he had brought the truck. When we got home, Debbie ran to me crying, trying to hug me, but I shoved her hard enough that she fell to the ground. She looked stunned. I told her to get her stuff out of the house because I wanted a divorce. She tried to argue, but her dad talked her into leaving. An hour later, my mother-in-law came back with the kids, and I hugged them tight. She also apologized for her daughter's actions before she left. In my state, there's a requirement to go through couples counseling before a divorce can be finalized, which I think is complete nonsense. Why do I have to do counseling when she's the one who cheated? During the sessions, I mostly just sat there listening. It was all just excuses about how we were young parents, how she never got to experience a wild lifestyle, and how her friends pressured her into it. The counselor even tried a few times to blame me, saying I should have given her more freedom. I just looked at the woman and asked her if she was smoking crack because that was the dumbest thing that could have come out of her mouth. I asked Debbie how long the affair had been going on, and she said 4 months, insisting it was just with that one guy. She said it was a mistake and that we could move past it because of our history. I started asking her specific questions about the affair. Who initiated the sex? You or him? How many times did you go down on him? Did you swallow? Did he eat you raw? Did he come in you? Did they fall asleep together? She answered honestly through tears, and I was silent for a long time. I thought about everything we had done during that time, laughing, talking, being intimate, and there had been no sign that anything was wrong. We seemed normal. When I finally spoke, I brought up our intimate moments during that time and then called her some harsh names. The counselor tried to interrupt, but I shut her down and kept going. I told Debbie that in my eyes, she was tainted. They kept trying to convince me that our history could help us move past this, but it felt like my feelings didn't matter. It was all about forgiving her and what I needed to do to make things better. I couldn't take it anymore, so I walked out. The divorce process has been a painful uphill battle for the past 2 years. Debbie keeps trying to make things right and get back together, but I don't know why. I only talk to her about the kids, and if she brings up anything else, I hang up. I've avoided her at family gatherings or just skipped them entirely. Our older kids don't want to speak to her, and although I've tried to encourage them to spend time with their mom, I respect their decision not to. Her parents visit my house regularly and have tried to convince her to finalize the divorce, but it hasn't worked. Her mother has been especially harsh, calling her names and gossiping about her in church. I had to ask her to stop because I didn't want our private matters spread around town. During the first year, my son and daughter made me a Tinder profile, which I thought was ridiculous. I'm a middle-aged man with 5 kids and a dad bod, but I've actually gone on more than a dozen successful dates, which boosted my confidence. Recently, I met someone named Isabel while doing court-ordered community service. She's beautiful and was our Habitat for Humanity supervisor. We hit it off, and my daughters love her. To make things even more interesting, my son seems to like her daughter, but Debbie still hasn't let go and even told our youngest 2 that we'd eventually get back together. I had to tell her to stop saying that. Her dad is trying to get her to see a therapist, but all I want is for this to be over. I don't regret the years I spent with Debbie because I have 5 amazing kids. I worked hard and built a life for us, but I do regret that she threw away 26 years for a fling and that she thought I would just forgive and forget. I don't have any love or respect for her anymore. When I run into her old friends, I openly call them names because the respect I had for her disappeared the moment I found her in that car. She'll always be the mother of my children, but nothing more. I just hope she can come to terms with that. Top advice before reading the update. Months later, I'm always amazed that when a man cheats, he's a no-good sleazebag, but when a woman cheats, it's because the man didn't do enough to make her feel special. Nobody should cheat, and there is no justification for it. If you are in a relationship that you don't want to be in, get out before you cheat. It'll hurt, but it's less painful than when you were caught cheating. Good on you for being strong for your children and setting boundaries with your soon-to-be ex-wife. I wish you well, my friend. It's crazy that the marriage counselor basically told you to let her go out and cheat. Hell no. After 26 years, I've noticed a trend with women who cheat. It seems like it's often regret for not partying in their younger days, while for men, it seems to stem from a lack of sex or high stress. Both are wrong. Quite frankly, there is no upside to reconciliation. A 4-month affair requires a lot of planning, effort, and deception. This was not just a drunken one-night stand. She unilaterally decided to open up your marriage, exposing you to STDs. Hopefully, your children are all biologically yours. Paternity tests should be your decision now. She's likely to get half of all your assets along with mandated alimony and child support. That's not fair, especially since you remained faithful. I recommend reading more from chumplady.com. Cheating in a Nutshell available on Amazon, and Leave a Cheater, Gain a Life by Tracy Shore. Don't waste your time trying to make sense of her manipulation and blame shifting. There's no point. You upheld your commitment to the marriage. She chose to have an affair. Consider this. What kind of person gives oral sex to an affair partner in a parking lot? That alone is reason enough for divorce. As a woman, I can say that behavior is appalling. Do you really think he was the only one? I don't. It's good that you're getting out. You have nothing left to work with here. It's time to walk away. Go no contact, or at least maintain very low contact. There is nothing left for you in this relationship. There are plenty of women out there looking for loyal and honest partners. If you think you've found love again, be respectful to your new girlfriend and see where things go. I hope you've already removed her as the beneficiary of your pension, 401k, accident and dismemberment insurance, and any bank accounts you have. Even though you're still technically married, ask your attorney if you can draft a new will leaving your assets to your children once the divorce is finalized. Good luck. Already did that. Everything is divided among my children. How did your kids find out about her affair? My third-born discovered it on D-Day. She borrowed my ex's phone to order Chinese, and text messages began to appear. Eventually, she told my two eldest, and together they told me. How old are your three older kids in order? 29, 27, 24, 17, and 16. My son is wrapping up his surgical residency and lives on the other side of the city. My second-born is a homemaker. Her husband is currently deployed. My third-born is about to graduate with an architecture degree. My fourth and fifth are in high school. We have a family dinner every Friday with no exceptions, which was why my three eldest were arguing with their mother when I came home. She chose to go out on family dinner night on more than one occasion. Now for the update. Months later, I hope this is the right place for updates. I'm exhausted, sitting in the hospital with my third can of energy drink, waiting for my ex to be transferred to a mental hospital. My daughters are at home. Isabel is asleep beside me, and she hasn't left my side. My son has been with his mother after her surgery, and his girlfriend, who is also Isabel's daughter, has been by his side as well. This whole nightmare started last weekend. Leading up to it was my in-laws' 55th wedding anniversary. They asked me to bring Isabel, since we were now officially together. Previously, they had asked me not to bring her to avoid any tension, and I respected that. This time, though, they wanted her to come over. The past month, my ex, Debbie, had been acting erratically. She got into physical altercations with some of her old friends. One ended up with a broken nose, another with a busted lip, and one was shoved out of a convenience store. Each time, the police got involved. They just took her back to her parents' house. Given how small our town is, I tried to convince my in-laws that she needed to be taken to a hospital for evaluation, but it led to a shouting match, and in the end, I gave in. I should have pushed harder. At the anniversary party, Debbie seemed off. I pulled her aside to talk, and it was the first time we'd really spoken in a while. I asked if she was okay, and although she tried to assure me she was, I could tell it wasn't true. When I called her out on it, she started to cry and apologized, saying she didn't know why she hadn't stood up to her old friends or why she had given in to the pressure. She admitted that seeing me with Isabel made her realize how much she had lost and that she had taken our life together for granted. I could feel a knot forming in my stomach, fear, anxiety, maybe both. I should have asked more about how she was really feeling, but I was blindsided when Debbie formally apologized to Isabel for her past actions and asked her to take care of me, saying I deserved a good woman. During the party, Debbie approached each of our kids, and I could see them making peace with her. I'm not sure what was said, but there were hugs, kisses, and even some laughter as they talked. It was the first time I considered having a cordial conversation with Debbie. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a call. My sister-in-law was in a panic. I could hear my mother-in-law crying, and my brother-in-law was trying to stay calm as he told me that Debbie had tried to end her life, and they were on the way to the hospital. I rushed out of the house in my pajamas. Isabel and my daughters didn't need to ask what had happened. They could tell from my side of the conversation. They were distraught. Debbie had slit her wrists and would have bled out if her brother hadn't needed to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. When I got to the hospital, my in-laws were in bad shape. She had lost a lot of blood and was in surgery to repair the arteries. I should have called my kids sooner, but my mind was all over the place. I only realized I hadn't told them when I saw my son walking toward me, asking why I was at the hospital. I struggled not to cry as I explained what had happened, and he immediately ran toward the operating room. I contacted the rest of my kids, but they already knew, as my youngest had called them. They were almost at the hospital by then. Debbie was in surgery for 6 hours, and since the hospital was short on her blood type, my father-in-law and I donated our blood. Although my son couldn't take part in the operation, he watched from the observation area. All of my daughters were distraught, especially my eldest, who kept talking about what she should have or could have done differently. I told her to focus on the present and not on the what-ifs. Late Sunday, my mother-in-law found her farewell notes. Debbie had written one for each of the kids and a thick one for me. Inside my envelope were the signed divorce papers and an 8-page apology. In the letter, she explained that she had never been unhappy in our marriage. She wrote that she had been brainwashed by her so-called friends into feeling like a servant, which made her act the way she did. She expressed deep regret for how she treated me and the kids, and for having the affair. When Debbie woke up, she didn't speak at first and just stared out the window for 2 days. Eventually, she began acknowledging people, but she still seemed distant, as if she were disappointed to be alive. She became more talkative as time passed, but her progress was slow. She even asked to speak to Isabel alone. When Isabel came back, she told me Debbie had asked if she loves me because she could see that I love her. Isabel said she does love me and that I was the first man she'd been with since her husband died in Afghanistan 15 years ago. She asked me if I love Isabel, and I told her I do. That seemed to make her happy. Debbie will be staying in a mental hospital for observation. The doctors told her parents that it could take a year, maybe 2, before she's released. She may no longer be my wife or the woman I dedicated my love to, but she's still the mother of my children. I'm committed to making sure she gets the help she needs for our kids' sake. This is a very sad story, and it reinforces the old adage that misery loves company. It's true. You really have to choose your friends wisely. By the way, your ex-father-in-law sounds like a great person. Bailing you out and supporting you like that is invaluable. I wish I had the same experience. My in-laws made my life miserable. You shouldn't see those 26 years as wasted. Think about the wonderful, successful children she gave you. Another way to look at it is this. If she hadn't cheated but instead had a terminal illness, would you say 26 years were down the drain? No, you would cherish those moments. The same applies here. She has a kind of terminal mental illness that prevented her from thinking straight and making positive choices, and now the person you once knew is gone. Congratulations on meeting Isabel and moving forward with your life. You can try to ease Debbie's pain, although I doubt it will make much difference. She brought this harm upon herself, and I suspect it will haunt her for the rest of her life. Good luck to you, and thank you for sharing your story. You sound like a good man for even considering helping Debbie. It's been pretty hectic since Debbie was admitted, especially when the text messages came to light. Her former Harpy friends were pariahs, and they tried to argue with people in the town, but it's been a colossal failure. My youngest had an altercation with one of my ex-wife's former friend's kids. The girl approached my daughter, making a huge scene because she was embarrassed that our family just won't let it go, and my daughter popped her in the mouth. Isabel has been there for the girls, and they have gotten closer. It's amazing how women influence one another. You're right. Misery loves company. Hey man, how's life going? My son is engaged, and all of my daughters are helping his fiancée plan the wedding. Isabel is pregnant, which surprised all of us because she thought it was menopause. My ex-wife is still in the hospital, not doing well, and I'm here trying not to lose my mind. Last story. His affairs ruined everything. In an initial post 6 months ago, my life felt perfect. My husband and I had just found out we were pregnant after undergoing IVF. Our relationship seemed stronger than ever, and I felt like I was on top of the world. In mid-October, everything fell apart. I found out that he had been having an affair, and the other woman got pregnant too, though she ended up terminating the pregnancy. I was devastated, but I was still willing to try and work things out with him, even if it meant eventually divorcing on good terms. Then I learned that he had another affair right before we got married, which I never knew about. That discovery shattered me completely. During the fight that followed, he said some truly awful things that I'll never be able to forget or forgive. I went into preterm labor at 26 weeks, but fortunately, the doctors were able to stop it. However, I've been dealing with complications, and after 4 weeks, I'm still in the hospital. There's a chance I might have to deliver the baby early. My husband hasn't been supportive at all since our argument. In fact, he's been mean and uncooperative, and he hasn't visited me in the hospital even once during the past 4 weeks. Before all this, I thought I had a wonderful life. I wish I could go back to that time before I found out about everything. First, recognize that your life was not incredible prior to this, or before finding out it was a lie. It looks like he has a pattern of cheating, so essentially your whole relationship has been a lie. It was a facade that he created. Second, do what's right for you. Don't let the stigma of being a single mom stop you from doing what needs to be done. Push him to the background, focus on your child, and contact family and friends to help support you. Then, when things are a little calmer with your child, and you've had time to organize, contact a lawyer. Hey OP, I'm very sorry your husband deliberately deceived you into marrying him. And unfortunately, he's doing everything he can to turn the happiest moment in your life into a miserable experience. I hope you have family and friends that are supporting you through this, because you shouldn't be alone with your sociopath husband. You deserve better. I'm cheering you on and hope the delivery goes well. Take care and be well. Mini update. I'm doing okay, and I'm still pregnant, 33 weeks now, still in the hospital. I'm keeping myself busy by watching a lot of mindless TV and working on cross-stitch projects. We're not together anymore. I've spoken to lawyers about the situation. I thought it was clear when I mentioned that he said things I could never forgive, but I guess it's the internet, so I should clarify. Just because I'm grieving my old life doesn't mean I think I can get it back. I'm not naive. Anyways, goodbye for now. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell.